Hello everyone! In today's video, I'll be completing the 1/25th scale AMC Gremlin drag build. I've posted several videos showcasing this project from the design to every step of the build process. So if you'd like to watch the previous videos I made, be sure to check out the playlist linked below in the description. I'm going to be covering a lot in this video, so let's get started. In the previous video of this series, I wired all of the electronics, added body mounts, designed and printed a custom interior and engine piece, as well as applied primer to the body. This mostly just leaves a lot of fun stuff like painting and the final assembly. I started by modifying the hood that I'll be using. This model kit includes both a stock hood and one with an air scoop. Since I made a custom engine piece, I needed an opening in the hood for the intake. By cutting off the air scoop, the opening it left was a little larger than what I wanted, so I traced the opening onto a sheet of styrene and cut out a piece I could glue to the hood. With the piece being a good fit, I glued it to the hood and then sanded the transition between the two pieces to make it as smooth as possible. Additionally, I used filler to help further smooth the transition. While waiting for that to dry, I turned my attention to the body. I started by wet sanding the primer to leave a nice smooth surface for the paint, and then rinsed the body. I also sanded the motor and interior piece prior to painting it. I applied flat black to the interior and chrome to the motor. At this point, I was ready to paint the body. After holding an informal vote on the YouTube community tab and on our social media pages, orange ended up being the winner. I applied the paint to the inside of the body first, and then laid down several coats on the outside. After giving the paint time to dry, I used gradually finer grit sandpaper to give the paint a little smoother finish and remove some dust particles. I did need to apply a few additional color coats since the paint was too thin in a few spots. While the body was drying, I turned my attention to the interior. I hand painted some details such as the seatbelts and the helmet. Although it wasn't the highest possible print quality, those details really improved the appearance of the interior and will look nice in the finished car. I also spiced up the motor a bit with some black and silver details. By this time, the filler was dry so I could sand it. After that, I applied primer and continued to do some sanding. And finally, I painted the hood orange. Although the chrome had not yet been completely removed, I went ahead and sanded the bumpers to remove a few imperfections and to remove the remaining chrome before applying primer and gloss black paint. I also applied primer and paint to the side window covers. By this time I was ready to apply the water slide decals. I decided to go with the most obnoxious side stripe graphics for that full 70s effect. I also added the rear AMC emblem. I'm not the best at applying these water slide decals. In fact, I tore a few spots, but overall I love how they look. With those decals down, I was ready to apply the clear coat. After the clear coat cured, I once again used some fine grit sandpaper and polish to help smooth the surface. It's by no means a perfect paint job, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I thoroughly washed the body and then began masking off sections that I'll be painting flat black. I'll be painting the grille flat black along with the front fascia, so I glued it on now. The pressure may have been a little too high, so some paint snuck past the masking, but overall so far so good. I continue to add some more flat black details. Here I'm spraying some silver and transparent red for the rear side marker lights. I touched up a few spots with a brush and painted a few more details, including the silver rear emblem and the windshield wipers. While I had the silver paint out, I went ahead and backed the red taillight pieces with the silver paint. For some reason, I had issues with both the paint and clear coat cracking on the hood. Fortunately, I had no issues with the body despite using the same paint and technique for it. I ended up just stripping it down to plastic and spraying some flat black. It wasn't planned, but I ended up really liking how it looks. I used pieces of styrene to make mounts for the engine piece. I didn't want it to stick out too high above the hood. Before gluing the engine, I painted the styrene pieces flat black so they won't stand out. Once again, I used some styrene pieces to secure the hood to the body. I again applied some flat black paint so they won't stand out before I glued them in place. While waiting for that paint to dry, I applied the rear logo onto the emblem. Next, I glued in the windows and these black window covers. I used glue that will dry transparent so I don't have to worry about a little excess. The black painted bumpers look great, and I installed them onto the car. They fit the body very well. Next items to install were the headlights. I'm not a huge fan of the chrome headlights, but after painting the centers white while wiping off some of the excess, they looked better. I love how the flat black grille and turn signals look as is, so I won't be painting any further details. However, I did want to paint all of the white sections on the underside of the body. These sections won't be very visible, but it will still look better to have them painted black. I did a quick test fit with the interior in place to make sure everything will fit and the body will be at the correct height. With everything looking good, I quickly polished the windows to remove any glue smudges and then glued the interior piece to the body. Once that dried, I glued the body to the magnetic body mounts that I made in a previous video. I placed paper between the two magnets so they don't get glued together. Here I'm adding some extra glue around the magnets to prevent them from coming off. Next, I worked on the taillights by going around the outer edge with a black marker and adding the reverse lights. Earlier, I designed some hood pins. Obviously, being 1/25th scale, they are very small and hard to 3D print. However, they turned out pretty nice being printed on a SLA 3D printer. Just like with the other items I designed for this project, the STL files are available on Patreon using the link in the description. I decided to paint them silver so they'll stand out. I glued the hood pins along with the taillights to the body. Although I'm not sure how street legal this car would be, I decided to add a license plate to the rear. While I was waiting for that paint to dry, I polished the clear coat once more, being careful to avoid any painted details. Throughout the build process, sometimes I'll get a bunch of smudges or tape residue on the paint that I want to clean up. I also added this bumper sticker to the rear. With the license plate in place, the body is now complete. There was one final detail I wanted to add, which was the exhaust. With this being a fairly purpose-built drag car, I decided to make the exhaust dump before the rear axle rather than having tailpipes in the back. On a real car, you'd probably put them further back, depending on your tolerance to exhaust fumes, but with the chassis being the way it is, I couldn't really put it further back without it hanging low. I could have gone with side pipes or side exiting exhaust. In fact, the kit includes some side pipes, but in my opinion, I don't think they would look cool on this car. A 60 Stingray or Cobra, sure, but a 74 Gremlin, I'll pass. I printed, painted, and glued each to the chassis. And with those in place, the car is now complete. This car turned out great, and I really like the orange and black paint scheme. I also like the flat interior, which leaves plenty of room for the electronics. I think I'll be doing something similar for some future projects. That, along with the magnetic body mounts, allows for easy access to all the electronics. This is the first drag car I've built on this channel, but I can assure everyone this certainly won't be the last, as I had a lot of fun putting this car together and I really like how it looks. Of course, all that's left to do now is some driving. The car works flawlessly, though I haven't yet had an opportunity to drive the car down a 1/25th scale quarter-mile drag strip. Instead, I just tested it on this little foam mat test track. At some point, I'd like to find a long, smooth stretch of asphalt or concrete to do some passes. As I've done previously, I ended up making this car way more scale than I originally intended, and partially as a result of this, the car is pretty heavy. This means I probably won't be doing any wheelies with this car. However, I might still swap in a more powerful motor and see how fast I can make it. No surprise, there's some serious understeer when going around corners. Of course, drag cars are made for going in straight lines, but the rear tires hook up really nice even on concrete. In fact, one thing I'm thinking about trying is putting on some hard plastic tires with minimal grip. I think adding the element of throttle control and steering would make it more interesting than just hitting the throttle at full and going in a straight line. All around an awesome car that was a ton of fun to build and drive. I hope you enjoyed this build series as much as I enjoyed making it. Remember, if you'd like to do a similar build, the STL files are available on Patreon. You'll find the link below in the description. You can also become a channel member by clicking the join button below this video. You'll get access to some exclusive perks and help make more content like this possible. Thank you all very much for your support. That's all for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.